Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial episode. This video we're going to be covering Logblock setup and installation and use. Now, to run Logblock, which is an anti-griefing tool, you do need a SQL, a MySQL server or SQL server. Now, if you intend on running a plugin such as this, you're going to need to check with your host if you have access to a SQL database. If you do not, you cannot run one of these plugins, so it's an important thing to consider when you're choosing your server host. If you have a dedicated or a VPS, it's not a problem because you can set up your own SQL server or SQL database. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to cover two methods. If you're running the server locally, as I am in this tutorial, you can download and install this program called WAMP server. And I'm gonna the links again will be in the description. There's a 32-bit and a 64-bit version. You can get whichever one suits your operating system. And I'm also going to be covering phpMyAdmin, which is the typical interface that you'll have from a shared server provider, generally speaking. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to cover then is installation of the WAMP server. It's very straightforward. Once you've downloaded it, just go ahead and run. Most of the options you shouldn't need to change at all. I'm going to leave it in its default location for the purpose of this tutorial. Put a little icon on my desktop there as well. And I'll leave it run through its install. Shouldn't take too long, just a couple of minutes really. It's asking me to choose my default web browser. So I'm using Chrome. Okay, once you've located your browser, which in my case is Chrome, which is in the app data folder, it's going to ask you for PHP mail parameters. We're not going to be using an SMTP server, which is all to do with mail transport. So we're going to leave those exactly as they are. We're going to leave a tick in the launch WAMP server box, and we're going to launch it. And you'll notice down in the corner here, you'll have your WAMP icon. Green means that the server is offline, apparently. You're going to click on it with your left mouse button, and you're going to click on localhost. And that's going to bring up this page here. And you want to click on SQL Buddy, or SQL Buddy, down the bottom. And it's going to ask you for your username and password. Now we haven't set one up, so we're just going to leave the username as root and the password empty. And it's going to take us straight into the SQL or SQL Buddy. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is add a password. So you click on users on the left, and you need to choose the right account. So we're going to do this one, localhost root, the one at the top. We're going to type the name in, which is root, and the password, I'm just going to put 1234 for the tutorial. Obviously, do not make your password that simple. Leave these options as they are and click submit. And that's changed your password. Okay, now once you've changed the password, you're going to need to log out. So click on log out in the top right, and then log back in using the new password that you just made, which in our case is 1234. And on the very first page, you'll see a section that says create a new database. Now you can call the database anything you like. I personally like to have different databases for different plugins, like a permissions database, Logblock, economy, etc. However, some server providers will only let you have one database. Doesn't mean to say you can't have multiple plugins using it, because you have within the databases are tables, but you can essentially call the database whatever you want. So I'm going to keep them separate. I'm going to call this database Logblock. We're going to leave the char set as Latin 1 and click submit, and you can pretty much ignore all of this and just hit submit again. And once that's done, it should yeah, you'll see on the left hand side, you've now got a Logblock database. There's nothing in there because the plugin hasn't run yet, but what you now need to do is you can minimize your browser. See the WAMP icon down on your taskbar? You need to left click on it and click on put online. And after a second it'll change green again, and it now says, if you hover over it, server online, which is great. So going back to our server, you need to obviously install the Logblock plugin. There's going to be two jar files included in it. You've got logblock.jar and logblock questioner. I'll tell you what those two different ones do in a moment. But as with all plugins, just put them in your plugin folder and start up your server. And now there's going to be an error in the config. Don't worry about that. You can see this big error here. That's because it can't connect to the database, and that's because we haven't yet given it the database details. So again, go back into your plugins folder, go into the Logblock folder, and open up the config.yml. And a little down a little bit, you'll see this section called MySQL or MySQL, and it's asking for your database details. So your user is your username. So we are root. Port, you can leave that unless your host specifies otherwise. Password, in our case, is 1234. Host, again, you can leave that as a local host unless your server provider gives you a different IP address to use. And the database, this depends what database you created. In our case, it's called Logblock. And we're going to save the config, and we're going to do a reload. And as you can see, no errors. It's looking good. So let's load up Minecraft. We'll just make sure that it's enabled and working. And let's go to multiplayer and my test server. Where are you? There you are. Okay, now the easiest way to tell if it's working is if you do /pl. You'll see Logblock is installed. It's green. That's one indicator. Also, if you type in /lb, which is the abbreviation for Logblock, if you get that, the version number, and it's up to date, then you're installed and working. Now, there's lots of commands you can do in Logblock. I'm not going to be covering every single one because there's a whole lot of them. But I will be covering... Oh, I guess I don't have access to that. I will be covering the basics, if you like. Let me opt myself. On how to kind of roll back and do that kind of thing. I'm going to put God mode on as well so I don't get... Oh, I did have it on. So I don't get bothered by too many mobs. But before I go over in-game functions, I'm going to close this. It's working, that's what I wanted to confirm right now, because there's a few more config options I want to quickly go over. As you can see within the Logblock folder, you've got config files for every world that you have on your server. And within these are several options. Now if you open them up, it basically allows you to choose what information you do and what information you do not want to log. Personally, these are the options that I use. Do not log leaves decay, because that would create a massive database. I do log miscellaneous explosions. I do not log snowform. I do log natural structure grow. That is where people plant a tree. Like recently you've had a lot of people griefing using trees because traditionally they couldn't be rolled back. Thankfully they can now. So I do log that. I don't log kill. I do log fire. I do not log chat or water flow. Bone meal structure I do log. Again, that's where people grow trees with bone meal instead of naturally. Block place is definitely a given. Ender dragons as well, because if somebody does spawn one of those in your world, they can destroy it in minutes. Diode interact, that's a redstone repeater. Personally, I don't bother. Snow fade, again, I don't. Chest access, I do. If you want to see who's stealing items from a chest, you want that option enabled. Enderman, sign text, again, I set to true. Block break is obviously true. Switch interact, I mean, these are optional. I'm just showing you the ones that I use personally. Like you can log who opens and closes doors if you want to, but personally, I don't really see the point in that all that much. But it's optional, it's up to you entirely. But once you've configured this to the options that you want, signs I do log, by the way, so you can see who wrote a sign. I hit save, and these config files are identical for each world, so you can set up exactly what you want logged in each world. I'm only going to cover the world one because they're the same. Once you get one, you get them all. I'm going to do a reload on the console now, just for any changes that we've made there. One more thing I do want to show you is in the config, there are several options that you can change. By default, there's two tools that you can use to look up block changes. The default is 270, which is a wooden pickaxe, and a piece of bedrock. You can customize these to whatever you want. Just put the item IDs in and save the file. There's also a lot more options here, but to be honest, unless you're experienced, I do change some of these personally, but unless you're experienced, I wouldn't mess with any of them. But once you've changed those IDs, if you so desire, you can go onto your server and everything should be working. Now, right now, I need to check. I've been messing with these permissions for other reasons, so let me just quickly check my permissions. I think they're all kind of screwed up. Yeah, these are all different ones. Okay, let me just put myself in an admin group here. Ignore this. This is just me because I was screwing around with some of my plugins. There you go. Right, I should now be in the admin group, hopefully. Test. There we go. Right, there are some permissions that you're going to need to give your moderators or whichever staff you want to use that, and these permissions I'll just cover here. If you want to know how to add permissions, check my previous permissions videos. But the permissions that you're going to need to add... Oh, I haven't added them. I thought I did. I thought I did that already. Okay, I'll get those at the end. I'll show you those at the end. As an admin, I'm just simply going to give myself this permission now. Pex group admin add logblock.star. I'm just going to give myself everything. Right, so the first thing then, to get the Logblock tool, which is the item that you use, as I said, the default is a piece of bedrock or a wooden pickaxe. Now you can either just spawn one of these in, you know, just by getting one out of the creative menu or whatever, or also if you type in LB tool, or was it LB2 space tool? Yeah, it's saying I already have a wooden pickaxe, which is fine. I'm going to get a piece of bedrock because there's slight differences between them. So what you'll see is whenever a user places a block in your world, let's get a few examples actually. Let's get a chest, let's get a furnace too, and we'll get some things to put in there. Furnace, we'll put some wool in the furnace just for demonstration purposes, and we'll put some in the chest. Okay, whenever somebody interacts with a block or a chest or a furnace, it's logged to the database, and I will show you the database afterwards. But to check who placed the block, you just take your tool, which in our case is the wooden pickaxe, and you right click on the block, and it comes up right there saying that I created the dirt. It gives you the date, the time. Again, same for the log, same for the chest, and it tells you what I've put in there as well, and the same for the furnace. Now, if some griefer was to come along, destroy my blocks, destroy my chests, you need to figure out who that was. Now, there's two ways you can do it. Now, I can't use the wooden pickaxe straight away because there's nothing to click on. It's clicking on the floor, which is not where the blocks were. So you can either place dirt in its place and then right click, and then it'll tell you that I destroyed the log, or that I destroyed the chest, or that I destroyed the furnace. Or, that's where the bedrock piece comes in. You can put bedrock down, and what it does is it pops down and then disappears and gives you that block history. So, using the bedrock basically stops you from having to place a dirt block or some kind of block down before you check it. Now, let's say, I mean, this is a tree, I know. Ooh. Yeah, can't break stuff with that. But let's say I came along and I was griefing somebody's lovely tree farm, just leaving a mess everywhere. Okay. Now, moderator comes along and wants to figure out who did this. So they could, again, you can either place dirt, use your wooden pickaxe. Oh, it's not there. Was it there? No, was it there? There it was, okay. You can either use your wooden pickaxe to see who destroyed it, or, again, as we've covered, you can use your bedrock, and it says exactly the same thing. So, right, now I know it was phunkeymonkeh. So this is the command you're going to do. You're going to do LB, which is the logblock command, RB, which is short for rollback, player, phunkeymonkeh, it's not case sensitive, and then you're going to want to put in since. Now, since is the amount of time that you want to specify. So, I mean, I know I only did this grief 2 minutes ago. So I'm just going to put in 5M, which is short for minutes, and press enter. and it's going to say searching block changes for player phunkeymonkeh in the last 5 minutes in the world. It's found 96 blocks that I've changed in the last 5 minutes. So to confirm the rollback, you need to do /yes, and it's all restored. All the trees are back. Now you'll notice another message has come up saying is, do you want to delete the rollback log? Personally, I say no. I just leave them. I leave all the logs. But again, that's personal preference. Again, it works with stolen items. If I put that stuff in a chest again, it should give it a second. There you go. It doesn't. It takes like anywhere up to a minute to actually log the changes in the database, depending how quick your system is. So there, it says I've put in 64 wool. Now say a griefer comes along and steals half of my wool. There you go. phunkeymonkeh took 32 orange wool. Now I'm going to roll back the griefer. Now, bearing in mind it's kind of difficult to demonstrate when I'm both the victim and the griefer, but the command is exactly the same. And I'm going to specify a time of, we'll just do 1 minute. That might be 2. No, a minute should be okay. And it's going to say 3 blocks. Yeah, that was too long. See, that even took the whole chest away. There's also let's just make a mess here. There's also like, say for example, you don't want to roll back. When I do the command that I issued a moment ago would roll back every single block that player has placed in the time limit that you specify. But let's say I only want to roll myself back in this area. I don't want it to be a server-wide rollback. The command is very similar. lbrb player phunkeymonkeh since I don't know, 2 minutes, and then you can specify an area 20. That will only roll back blocks that I've changed in the last 2 minutes in an area of 20 blocks around the position that I'm in right now. And it says I've done 64 blocks, and there you go. It's undone. No, we won't delete the logs. And those are the essential commands for Logblock. Now it does so much more than that. It will log individual blocks. Like I could get it to make a list of every diamond ore block that had been broken, and I could get it to teleport me to each one of those locations if I wanted to. Some of the commands are really in depth. I'm not gonna go over them, you know, to a huge extent. For 99% of people, those two commands that I've just showed you now. One more I want to show you actually. Those two commands are going to cover 99% of your usage. But one more command is, let's say for example, I just got rolled back by accident. Like that hole in the ground, that was supposed to be there. So you can undo a rollback by using this command, and it's very similar. It's lb instead of rb, it's redo. Player phunkeymonkeh. Oops. Since we have to increase the time limit because some more time has passed now. 5 minutes, area 20. Are you sure? And there we go. It holds back. Even our chest is back. Look at that. So yeah, the lbrb player and lb redo player are going to be 99% of your usage for Logblock. And you'll notice if I open up, if I go down here, go back into the SQL buddy, and you'll see the Logblock database on the left here. You'll see all the tables that Logblock has created. Each one of these things does a different, logs a different thing. And you've got different ones for the different worlds that you have. You've got LB players, which is just a default one which logs all the players that have been on the server and how long they're online for also. LB world logs all block placements and breaks. LB World Chest logs all the chest logging. As you can see, I mean, it's got item type 35, which is the Minecraft ID for wool. Then you've got the items amounts. So you can see this is where I was taking and removing 32 pieces of wool here. So it logs every single one of those. And LB World Sign logs any signs. Let me show you that real quick, actually. Let's get a sign here. Right, say some troll comes and puts signs everywhere saying, "This server sucks!" Exclamation. And you want to know who did it. Again, with your tool, in this case our pickaxe, right click, and it says phunkeymonkeh created signpost, this server sucks. Let's ban him. Let's ban him now. He's a troll. And again, it logs these details here in this LB world sign. There you go, there it is. This server sucks. So this is, as you can see, these databases, I mean, look, this LB world one, with me just showing you those few demonstrations, it's got 172 entries in it. So you can imagine how big these databases and get on a popular server. So that's something to bear in mind. They can get very, very big. So those are basically the main commands that you're going to use, and it's going to cover 99% of your usage. But I would recommend that you look at all the information for Logblock, because it does so much more than what I've covered, and you know, it would take hours to cover it. And if I'm honest, I probably don't know it all myself. I do use quite a lot of the functions, like you can roll back chest access. So for example, say I wanted to just roll back somebody, not the blocks they've placed, but just the items they've taken or put into a chest, then you can do that too. Again, just like I say, look at the guide for information on how to do all of that, because it shows a lot of information. Now, I did say that I was going to tell you what Logblock questionnaire is. And that is quite simply, every time you see these questions here, do you want to delete the rollback log? Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, no, etc. That's the questionnaire. That is its role. It's an option, a prompt to confirm your actions. That's all the questionnaire does. It gives you a question and wants you to confirm your actions before the action takes place. It's like a security measure. And I did also say I was going to cover phunkeymonkeh, which is probably what most of you guys are going to be using if you've got a server hosted by a company. And this is what phunkeymonkeh looks like. It's very similar to SQL Buddy, just different layout essentially. As you can see, this is a running server. On the left, I've got all my databases. And if I were to click on them, like the Minecraft one, for example, you can see all the tables, exactly the same tables. As you can see, this one has over 4 million entries, because it's a pretty popular server, pretty busy server. So yeah, I mean, this is phunkeymonkeh. When with the good thing about it is, with a professionally hosted server like you know, like some of the shared servers out there, they actually already create the database, the username and the password for you. So it's easier. You don't even need to come into this. You just put the username, password, and database details into the Logblock config, and you're done. That's all you need to do. If you're setting up it locally with something like WAMP server, like I've just demonstrated, then you know you need to set up the database yourself. But again, it's very simple once you know how to do it. It takes just a couple of minutes. So we've only got one database in here. I'm going to leave WAMP installed because we're going to use it for some more plugins in the future. Next video, I'm going to cover some more no cheating kind of plugins. Probably Lockit and no cheat, I suspect. If you have any questions about Logblock, like I say, there's a lot that I've left out in this tutorial simply because you know, I can't cover it all. It's just too big a plugin. But if you do have any questions, please put them below. If I can answer them, I will. Thank you for watching as always. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.